The credit card came back declined for the third time. I stood there at that polished marble desk, watching the little screen flash red like a warning light, and felt my entire world collapse into those two words. Payment denied. "Ma'am, do you have another card?" The receptionist, 20-something, perfect makeup, name tag reading. Brittany smiled, that professional smile they teach you in hospitality training. The one that says, "I'm being nice, but you're wasting my time." Let me check. My hands shook as I dug through my purse. Lipstick, expired coupons. A photo of Daniel from his college graduation, back when he still looked at me like I mattered. $17 in cash. That's what I had left. Everything else, my savings, my retirement, the house I'd spent 23 years paying off, gone. Poured into Daniel's investment opportunity. The one that was supposed to make us both rich. The one he'd pitched to me over dinner at Olive Garden, holding my hands across the breadsticks, saying, "Mom, this is it. This is how I finally pay you back for everything." That was 6 weeks ago. This morning, he'd driven off in the BMW I co-signed for, leaving me standing in this hotel lobby with my luggage and a post-it note stuck to my suitcase. "Sorry, Mom. Had to go. Business emergency. You understand." I didn't understand. I didn't understand anything anymore. "Ma'am?" Brittany's voice pulled me back. "Is there someone you can call? Family, maybe?" I almost laughed. "Family. Sure. Let me call my son who just abandoned me, or my mother who—" Wait. I looked up at Brittany, ready to ask if they took personal checks. They wouldn't, when I saw her face change. She wasn't looking at my credit card anymore. She was staring at me, really staring, like she'd seen a ghost. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hand, still holding my declined visa, started trembling against the counter. "Ma'am," she whispered, and her voice had gone from professionally polite to genuinely shaken. What's your mother's name?" My stomach dropped. "Excuse me? Your mother." Brittany leaned forward, and I could see goosebumps rising on her arms. "Is she? Was she?" She couldn't finish the sentence, just kept staring at my face like she was solving a puzzle. I hadn't heard my mother's name spoken aloud in 30 years, not since the night she packed a suitcase, kissed my forehead while I pretended to sleep, and walked out of our apartment with a man who wasn't my father. I was 12 years old. I woke up the next morning to find a note on the kitchen table. "I'm sorry, Ellie Bird. Some debts can't be paid any other way. No phone number, no address. Just gone. Like smoke." "I don't see how that's relevant," I said, my voice harder than I intended. But Brittany wasn't backing down. She glanced over her shoulder at the security camera, then back at me, and lowered her voice even more. "Linda Chen," she whispered. "Your mother's name is Linda Chen." The air left my lungs. Nobody knew that name. I'd buried it when I got married, became Eleanor Whitmore, started a new life with a new last name and a promise to myself that I'd never end up like her, broke, desperate, running from something I couldn't name. And here I was, broke, desperate, abandoned by my own son in the same hotel where my mother had apparently— "How do you know that?" I gripped the edge of the desk. "How do you know that name?" Brittany's eyes darted to the elevator, then back to me. Her hand was shaking so badly now that she had to set my credit card down. "Because she told me," Brittany said. 6 months ago. She came here, paid for a room in cash, and left specific instructions. She pulled out a sealed envelope from under the desk. Cream-colored paper. Expensive. My name written across the front in elegant handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. Eleanor Grace Whitmore. My maiden name and married name. Together, like she'd been keeping track of me this whole time. She said. Brittany's voice cracked. "She said you'd come eventually. That you'd be alone, broke, and betrayed by someone you loved. She said when that happened, I should give you this." My hands moved on their own, reaching for the envelope. It felt heavy, important. Inside, I could feel something small and metal. A key, maybe. "There's more," Brittany said, and now she was looking around like she was afraid someone might be watching. "She left something for you. Room 1247, 12th floor, end of the hall. She's been paying for it monthly. Housekeeping isn't allowed in. No one's been inside since she left." "Left?" I echoed. "Left when? Where did she go?" But Brittany just shook her head. She grabbed a key card from the desk drawer, slid it across the marble toward me, and leaned in so close I could smell her vanilla perfume. "Ma'am, listen to me," she whispered, and there was genuine fear in her voice now. "Your mother made me promise 2 things. First, that I'd give you this when you showed up. Second," she glanced at the security camera again, swallowed hard. "Second, that you'd go there alone, and you'd go now. She said people might come looking. She said if they found you first." Brittany didn't finish, didn't need to. My heart was hammering against my ribs. In my hand, the envelope felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "What people?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" But Brittany was already stepping back, putting professional distance between us again. Her customer service smile snapped back into place like a mask, but I could see the fear still swimming in her eyes. "Room 1247, she repeated, louder now, for the cameras. "I've upgraded you as a courtesy for the inconvenience. No charge. Enjoy your stay, Miss Whitmore." She turned away, started helping the next guest, but not before sliding one more thing across the desk. A post-it note. 5 words in her handwriting. "Don't trust anyone, especially him." I looked down at the photo in my purse. Daniel's graduation day, his arm around my shoulders, that smile that always made me forgive him, bail him out, give him one more chance. The receptionist leaned closer, voice barely audible. "She left something for you. Room 1247. But ma'am, you need to go there alone, and you need to go now." The elevator climbed so slowly I thought I might scream. 8, 9, 10. Each floor felt like an eternity. I stood there alone in that mirrored box, clutching the key card and that cream envelope, watching my reflection fracture into 1,000 anxious versions of myself. Don't trust anyone, especially him. Who was him? Daniel? My mother's mysterious companion from 30 years ago? Some stranger I hadn't met yet? 11, 12. The doors slid open with a soft chime that felt too cheerful for whatever was waiting for me down that hallway. Cold air hit me first. The 12th floor was freezing, like they'd cranked the AC to Arctic levels. The hallway stretched endlessly ahead, burgundy carpet, dim wall sconces casting shadows that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. My footsteps echoed. Loud. Too loud. Room 1201, 1205, 1210. I passed a housekeeping cart abandoned in the middle of the hall. Nobody around. Just the hum of the ice machine and my own breathing. Too fast, too shallow. She said people might come looking. Who? Who was looking? 1,220. 1,230. 1,235. The numbers climbed higher, and with each door I passed, my heart hammered harder against my ribs. This was insane. I should go back downstairs, demand answers from that receptionist, call the police, call someone. But who would I call? Daniel, who'd left me stranded with $17. My ex-husband, who'd made it clear I was on my own the day our divorce finalized? I had no one. Nobody except the ghost of a woman who'd abandoned me 3 decades ago and apparently thought she could just leave me a hotel room and call it closure. 1,240. 1,243. 1,245. There it was. End of the hall, just like Brittany said. Room 1247. The door looked exactly like all the others, cream-colored, standard hotel issue, little brass numbers screwed into the wood. Nothing special, nothing threatening. So why did I feel like I was standing at the edge of a cliff? I lifted the key card with shaking hands, hesitated. You need to go there alone, and you need to go now. I swiped the card. Green light. Click of the lock disengaging. The door opened. Golden afternoon light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, so bright after that dark hallway that I had to squint. The room was large, suite-sized corner unit, Probably cost more per night than I used to make in a week. But it wasn't the size that made me freeze in the doorway. It was the stillness. Like I'd just opened a time capsule. Like this room had been waiting 30 years for me to walk through that door. Vintage suitcases, the hard shell kind from the 82nds with the combination locks, were stacked by the window. 3 of them, butter yellow and perfectly aligned, covered in a fine layer of dust that glittered in the sunlight. A mink coat was draped over the armchair. Real fur, the expensive kind. I recognized it immediately. My mother had worn it the night she left, and I'd pressed my face into it while she kissed my forehead, smelling her perfume and cigarettes and something else I couldn't name. Sadness, maybe. Or fear. "Oh my God," I whispered. The sound of my own voice in that silent room made me jump. I stepped inside, letting the door close behind me with a soft click that felt final somehow. No turning back now. The room was immaculate despite the dust. Bed made with hospital corners, towels folded in the bathroom. But everything felt frozen, preserved, like a museum exhibit. The life of Linda Chen, circa 1995. On the nightstand, a glass of water sat half empty, a ring of residue marking where the liquid had evaporated over years. Next to it, a pair of reading glasses I remembered her wearing. And on the bed, centered perfectly on the white duvet, was a yellowed envelope. My childhood nickname written across the front in her unmistakable handwriting, all loops and flourishes, the way they taught penmanship before everything went digital. Ellie Bird. Nobody had called me that in 30 years. My legs felt weak. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the mattress creaking under my weight, the first sound this room had probably heard in months. "Mama?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. Childish. Desperate. No answer. Just the hum of the AC and traffic noise from 12 stories below. I picked up the envelope, heavier than I expected, something inside besides paper. My hands trembled as I peeled back the flap, old glue, brittle with age, giving way easily. 3 photographs slid out onto my lap. The first one stopped my breath. Me. Maybe 6 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, wearing that ridiculous strawberry print dress my mother had sewn by hand. We were at the park, I remembered that day. She'd packed peanut butter sandwiches, and we'd fed the ducks, and she'd told me I could be anything I wanted when I grew up. Anything at all. 2 weeks later, she was gone. I pressed the photo to my chest, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. God, I'd forgotten how young she looked back then. How happy. The second photograph made my stomach twist. My mother, older, maybe mid-40s, standing next to a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, expensive suit, salt and pepper hair slicked back, hand resting possessively on her shoulder. They were standing in front of this very hotel. I recognized the entrance, the brass revolving doors. But it was my mother's expression that chilled me. Not happy, not smiling, just resigned, like a prisoner posing for a photo with her captor. Who was he? My hands were shaking so badly now I almost dropped the third photograph. But when I saw it, my entire world tilted sideways. Daniel. My son. My baby boy. Standing in what looked like a restaurant upscale, dim lighting, leather booths. He was shaking hands with someone across the table, both of them smiling like old friends. The man he was shaking hands with was the same man from the second photograph. Same face. Same calculating smile. Maybe a little older, but unmistakably him. I flipped the photo over with trembling fingers. Date stamped on the back. Last week, 6 days ago, to be exact. The same day Daniel had asked me to liquidate my retirement account for his investment opportunity. The same day he'd held my hands at Olive Garden and promised this would change both our lives. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." But the evidence was right there in my hands. 3 photographs telling a story I didn't want to understand. My mother with this man. Daniel with this same man. 30 years apart. Same smile. Same deal. History repeating itself, like a curse passed from mother to daughter to son. I looked up at those vintage suitcases by the window. That mink coat draped over the chair, this room my mother had kept like a shrine or a warning or both. And suddenly I understood. She hadn't abandoned me. She'd been running from something. Or someone. And now Daniel was shaking hands with it. Inside the envelope were 3 photographs. One of me as a child, one of my mother with a man I'd never seen before, and one of Daniel, my son, shaking hands with that same man taken just last week. I couldn't stop staring at that photograph. Daniel's smile. That man's handshake. The date stamp. 6 days ago. 6 days before my son convinced me to sell my house, drain my accounts, and hand him everything I had left in this world. My hands moved on autopilot, turning the envelope upside down, shaking it. Something else slid out, folded papers, brittle with age, covered in my mother's handwriting. A letter. I unfolded it with trembling fingers, and the first line hit me like a fist to the chest. Ellie Bird, if you're reading this, then I'm either dead or worse, and you're in danger. The room felt colder suddenly. I pulled the mink coat off the chair, wrapped it around my shoulders, still smelled like her perfume after all these years, like cigarettes and Chanel No. 5 and regret. I read, I don't expect you to forgive me for leaving. God knows I'll never forgive myself. But I need you to understand I didn't abandon you, baby. I was trying to save you. The man in the photograph is named Vincent Zhao. You'll never see his name in the news or on any business registry. Men like him don't exist on paper. They exist in the spaces between things, cash transactions, offshore accounts, favors that can never be repaid. I met him when you were 5. Your father had just left us, and I was desperate, working 3 jobs, couldn't make rent, about to lose our apartment. Vincent found me. He always found desperate women. Offered me a job doing his books, managing his investments. The money was incredible, Ellie. Obscene. I told myself I'd do it for a year, save enough to give you a real life, then get out. I wiped my eyes, kept reading. But you don't get out. Not from men like Vincent. The money came with strings invisible at first, then tightening around your throat until you couldn't breathe without his permission. He had me laundering money through shell companies, moving cash across borders, making dirty money look clean. And I was good at it, baby. Too good. I knew where every dollar came from, every account number, every crime that funded his empire. That made me valuable. And dangerous. My stomach turned. I looked at that photograph again, my mother's resigned expression, Vincent's possessive hand on her shoulder. A prisoner. The letter continued. And my mother's handwriting got messier, more frantic. I spent 7 years working for him. 7 years watching him destroy people who tried to leave, who skimmed money, who talked to the wrong people. And then I realized he was grooming you. You were 12. He started sending you gifts. Remember those? The expensive dolls, the electronics, the college fund he set up in your name? I told you they were from your grandmother, but they were from Vincent. He was investing in you, Ellie, buying you, making sure that when you grew up, you'd owe him. That's when I knew I had to run. Oh God. I remembered those gifts. I'd thought my mother had a rich relative I'd never met. I'd been so grateful, so excited. I'd written thank you notes to a grandmother who didn't exist while Vincent Zhao bought my childhood loyalty one present at a time. I took money when I left, $800,000. I know that sounds like a fortune, but to Vincent, it was nothing. Pocket change. I didn't take it because I wanted to be rich. I took it so he'd come after me instead of you. As long as he thought I stole from him, as long as he was hunting me, you were safe. You were just the abandoned daughter, the victim. He had no use for you. He said debts don't die, Ellie. They get inherited, passed down like heirlooms. Your grandmother owed him, so I paid. I owed him, so now. He said he'd take Daniel. No. No, no, no. They always take the sons first, he told me. Sons are easy to corrupt, easy to seduce with money and power and the promise of being special. They take the sons, and when the sons fail or betray them or try to leave, they come for the mothers. The paper slipped from my hands. I looked at that photograph again, Daniel shaking Vincent's hand, smiling. My baby boy, who I'd sacrificed everything for, who I'd raised alone after his father left, who I'd worked myself to the bone to give every advantage. He'd been recruited. Just like Vincent recruited my mother 30 years ago. And I'd been too blind, too trusting, too desperate to believe my son loved me to see what was happening. "Daniel," I whispered to the empty room. "What did you do?" I picked up the letter again. One paragraph left, scrawled at the bottom in shaky handwriting. "If you're reading this, then Vincent has made his move. Daniel will have taken everything from you, your money, your house, your security. He'll have left you broken and desperate, exactly the way Vincent wants you. Because that's when he makes his offer, Ellie, when you have nothing left to lose. Don't take it. Whatever he promises, whatever he threatens, don't take it. There's a way out. I've spent 30 years preparing for this. The safety deposit box key in this envelope, it's at Harbor Trust Bank downtown, box 1247. Inside is everything you need. Money, documents, new identities for both of us. But you have to move fast. Vincent doesn't give second chances. I love you, Ellie Bird. I always have. Even when I couldn't say it. Even when loving you meant leaving you. Mama." I sat there on that bed, wrapped in her coat, holding her letter, and finally 30 years too late I understood. My mother hadn't abandoned me. She'd sacrificed herself. And now my son was doing to me exactly what Vincent had done to her. My phone buzzed in my pocket, making me jump. Unknown number. Text message. "Your mother stole from us. Your son promised to repay the debt. But there's another way out if you're brave enough to finish what she started. Parking garage, level B3, midnight. Come alone, or Daniel pays the price." I looked at the clock on the nightstand. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes. I had 13 minutes to decide if I was going to save a son who'd betrayed me. 13 minutes to figure out if I was my mother's daughter, a runner, a survivor, or if I was still just Eleanor Whitmore, the woman who always chose love over logic, who always gave one more chance, who always ended up broke and alone and wondering why. I grabbed the safety deposit key from the envelope. Small, silver, stamped with a number, 1247. The same as this room. My mother had planned everything. The room number, the box number, she'd left me a trail of breadcrumbs, hoping I'd be smart enough to follow them before Vincent Zhao swallowed me whole. But Daniel. God, Daniel. I pulled out my phone, stared at that text message. "Come alone, or Daniel pays the price." 11 minutes now. My hands shook as I dialed his number. Straight to voicemail. His voice cheerful, confident. The voice of someone who hadn't just destroyed his mother's entire life. "Hey, it's Daniel. Can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message and I'll hit you back." "Daniel," I whispered after the beep. "Baby, if you can hear this, if you're listening, I know about Vincent. I know what you did. And My voice cracked. What could I say? I forgive you? I didn't. I love you? I did. And that was the problem. Just be careful, I finally managed. Please. I hung up. 9 minutes. I looked around that hotel room, the suitcases, the coat, the letter, 30 years of my mother's secrets laid out like evidence at a crime scene. Don't take it. Whatever he promises, whatever he threatens, don't take it. But she didn't know Daniel like I did. She hadn't raised him, hadn't watched him take his first steps, hadn't stayed up all night when he had the flu, hadn't worked double shifts to pay for his college, his car, his dreams. She'd left me. I'd never left Daniel. Maybe that was my mistake. I grabbed the mink coat, the letter, those 3 photographs, and shoved them into my purse. Checked my reflection in the mirror, 58 years old, mascara smudged from crying, wearing yesterday's clothes, and my mother's stolen coat. I looked exactly like what I was, desperate. 7 minutes. I ran. The elevator ride down felt faster than the one up. My mind was racing, trying to piece together 30 years of lies, trying to understand how I'd missed all the signs. Daniel's sudden interest in my finances 6 months ago. The way he'd started asking about my mother questions I'd always deflected because it hurt too much to talk about her. The Investment opportunity that required every penny I had. The insurance policy. Oh God. The insurance policy. 3 months ago, Daniel had asked me to sign some paperwork. Life insurance, he'd said. Just a precaution. You're not getting any younger, Mom, he'd joked, and I'd laughed and signed without reading it because I trusted him. $2 million. And he was the only beneficiary. The elevator doors opened. Lobby. Brittany was still at the desk, but she wouldn't look at me. Just stared at her computer screen as I walked past, heading for the parking garage entrance. She knew. Everyone knew, except me. I pushed through the heavy door marked Parking Levels B1, B3 and started descending the concrete stairs. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The smell of oil and exhaust and something else, something wrong, like meat left out too long. B1. B2. My footsteps echoed. Somewhere below, an engine idled, waiting. B3. I pushed open the door. The parking garage was a concrete tomb, low ceilings, harsh lighting, creating pockets of shadow between cars. Half empty at this hour. My breath came out in visible puffs, freezing down here. And then I saw it. Black Mercedes. Parked in the corner, engine running, exhaust curling into the cold air. A man stood beside it. Even from 50 feet away, I recognized him from the photographs. Silver hair slicked back, tailored suit that probably cost more than my house used to be worth. That same calculating smile. Vincent Zhao. He saw me and smiled wider, like he'd been expecting me, like this was all going exactly according to plan. Eleanor, he called out, his voice echoing off concrete. Or do you prefer Ellie Bird? Your mother always liked that name. I forced my legs to move, walking toward him on shaking knees. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. Not until I knew Daniel was safe. Where's my son? My voice came out stronger than I felt. Vincent chuckled. Direct. I like that. Your mother was always so theatrical. All that running and hiding and leaving cryptic letters. He shook his head. Exhausting. Where is Daniel? He gestured toward the Mercedes. Safe, for now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on you. I stopped 10 feet away. Close enough to see his face clearly handsome in that dangerous way, like a snake is beautiful right before it strikes. He was maybe 60, but moved like a younger man. Alert. Predatory. Your mother told you about me, I assume? He pulled out a silver cigarette case, lit one with a gold lighter. About our arrangement? She said you owned her, that she took money to get away from you. Owned? Vincent laughed, smoke curling from his mouth. No. Your mother and I had a business relationship. She was my accountant, my bookkeeper, my financial architect. Brilliant woman. She made me very, very wealthy. She ran because you were grooming me. His smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it was back, colder. Your mother had a tendency toward paranoia. I sent gifts to her daughter. Is that a crime? I was being generous to the child of an employee. She was 12. And now she's 58, broke, and standing in a parking garage at midnight because her son learned from my example. Vincent took a long drag. Generational patterns, Eleanor. Your mother ran from responsibility. You enabled your son's greed. And Daniel? He smiled. Daniel came to ME 3 months ago. Said he'd found documents about his grandmother. Said he knew she'd stolen from me. Offered to repay the debt. My stomach dropped. He came to you? Enthusiastically. Pitched me a whole plan, get you to liquidate your assets, fake a business emergency, disappear with the money. Very ambitious for a boy who works in middle management. Vincent flicked ash onto the concrete. I was impressed. He has your mother's cleverness, and your weakness. What weakness? Love. He said it like it was a disease. You loved him too much to see what he was. Just like your mother loved you too much to let me recruit you properly. Love makes people stupid, Eleanor. Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not in front of him. So what do you want? The money Daniel took? It's gone. He has it. Oh, I know where the money is. I've always known. Vincent stepped closer. This was never about $500,000 from your retirement account, Eleanor. This was about the EIGAT million your mother stole 30 years ago. The number hit me like a physical blow. The letter said 800,000. The letter lied. Your mother was very good at lying. Vincent smiled. She took 8 million, invested it brilliantly, and turned it into something much more substantial. 20 million at last count. All sitting in that safety deposit box she left you the key to. He knew. He knew everything. Daniel told me about the letter, the hotel room, the key. He's been very cooperative, very eager to prove himself. Vincent dropped his cigarette, crushed it under an expensive shoe. So here's the deal, Eleanor. You have 2 choices. He held up one finger. Option 1. Give me the key. Walk away. I'll let Daniel live, and you can rebuild your sad little life somewhere far away from here. You'll never see your son again, but you'll both be breathing. Second finger. Option 2. Keep the key, access the money, and spend the rest of your very short life running like your mother did, looking over your shoulder, wondering when I'll collect. I'll start with Daniel slowly, painfully. Then I'll come for you. My mother's words echoed. Don't take it. Whatever he promises, whatever he threatens, don't take it. But she didn't understand. She'd left me. I couldn't leave Daniel. Could I? There's a third option, I said quietly. Vincent raised an eyebrow. Oh? Let me see him. Let me see Daniel. Let me hear from his own mouth that he betrayed me. And then, I swallowed hard. Then I'll decide. Vincent studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile this time, almost proud. You know what? Your mother never had the spine to face the truth. Always running, always hiding. He walked to the Mercedes, opened the trunk. But you? Maybe you're different. The trunk lid rose. And there, bound and gagged but alive, was Daniel, and sitting beside him, barely conscious and beaten, face swollen and bloody, was a woman I thought I'd never see again. My mother. Alive. Here. After 30 years of ghost stories and letters and cryptic warnings, she was real. Her silver hair was matted with blood, her face so swollen I almost didn't recognize her. But those eyes, God. Those eyes were the same ones that used to read me bedtime stories, that used to look at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. Those eyes found mine across the open trunk, and I watched them fill with tears. Mama? The word came out broken, childish. She tried to speak through the gag, shaking her head violently, making muffled sounds that might have been run or no or I'm sorry I couldn't tell. Daniel was next to her, also bound, also gagged, but his eyes were different, wild, panicked, not the calculating businessman who'd drained my accounts. Just a scared boy who'd made a terrible mistake. Touching reunion, Vincent said, leaning against the car with his arms crossed. 30 years in the making. How does it feel, Eleanor? Finally getting your family back? I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My mother alive after decades of wondering if she was dead in a ditch somewhere, if she'd ever thought about me, if she'd ever regretted leaving. She was here, because of me, because I'd walked into her trap to save a son who'd sold me out. Let them go, I whispered. Oh, I will, eventually. Vincent lit another cigarette. But first, we need to discuss the terms of your mother's debt. You see, when she took my 8 million 30 years ago, we agreed on certain penalties. Interest compounds, Eleanor, especially on stolen money. How much? 23 million. He said it casually, like he was ordering lunch. Adjusted for inflation, lost opportunities, and the significant inconvenience of having to hunt her down for 3 decades. My mother was shaking her head frantically, trying to tell me something. I don't have $23 million, I said. I don't have anything. Daniel took it all. But your mother does. Vincent gestured at her with his cigarette. 20 million in that safety deposit box. Close enough. I'm willing to call it even, let's say the remaining 3 million is payment for keeping both of them alive. My mother's muffled screams got louder. She was thrashing now, trying to sit up, trying to reach me. What's wrong? Vincent asked her mockingly. Don't want your daughter to pay your debts? That's rich. considering you've been preparing her for exactly this moment for 6 months." He turned to me. "Did you know she's been dying? Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed last year. 6 months to live," they said. That's why she finally stopped running, not because I found her, but because she knew she was out of time. The concrete floor seemed to tilt under my feet. "She set all this up," Vincent continued. "The hotel room, the letter, the safety deposit key. She knew Daniel would come to me. She'd been watching him for years, saw the same greed in him she'd seen in herself. She knew he'd betray you. She counted on it." "No." "Oh, yes." Vincent smiled. "Your mother is many things, Eleanor, but sentimental isn't one of them. She orchestrated this entire situation to force your hand. Get you desperate, get you alone. Get you to that safety deposit box so you could access the money and pay her debt before she dies." I looked at my mother, at the tears streaming down her battered face, at the desperate way she was shaking her head. Was it true? Had she manipulated me into this? "She could have just asked," I said quietly. "If she needed help, if she was dying, she could have just asked me." "Could she?" Vincent tilted his head. "Would you have helped the woman who abandoned you? Would you have forgiven her? Or would you have told her to go to hell?" I didn't answer, didn't need to. We both knew the truth. I would have slammed the door in her face. "So she did what she does best," Vincent continued. "She lied, manipulated, created a situation where you'd have no choice but to help her. Because that's what mothers do, right? They sacrifice their children to save themselves." "Stop it," I whispered. "Or maybe," Vincent leaned closer, voice dropping to something almost kind, "maybe she did it because she loved you, because she knew I'd come for you eventually anyway, once she was dead. Maybe she figured if she was going to die, she might as well make sure you had a chance to survive, give you the tools, the money, the knowledge." He gestured at the trunk. "Maybe this is her final gift to you, Eleanor. The truth about your son, the money to start over, the choice she never got." My mother had stopped thrashing. She was staring at me now, those eyes pleading, begging me to understand something I couldn't quite grasp. "Here's what's going to happen," Vincent said. "All business now. You're going to go to Harbor Trust Bank tomorrow morning when it opens. 9 a.m. sharp. You're going to access that safety deposit box. You're going to bring me the money, all 20 million. And if I do?" I let them both go. Clean slate. No more debts, no more running. You walk away, your mother dies in peace, and your son learns a valuable lesson about making deals with devils. "And if I don't?" Vincent smiled. Not a nice smile. "Then I start with Daniel. Your mother can watch. Then I'll work on her slowly, because I have 3 decades of anger to work through. And then I'll come for you. Might take weeks, might take months. But I'm patient, Eleanor. I've waited 30 years. I can wait a little longer." Daniel was crying now, tears and snot running down his face, making sounds behind the gag that might have been please or sorry or mom. My son, my baby, who'd stolen from me, who'd taken out life insurance on me, who'd shaken this monster's hand and smiled. I looked at my mother, at the woman who'd left me at 12 years old, who'd sent me gifts under fake names, who'd watched my life from a distance for 30 years without ever saying hello, who'd apparently orchestrated my betrayal to force me into paying her debts. Don't take it. Whatever he promises, whatever he threatens, don't take it. Her own words, from her own letter. Was that part of the manipulation too? Reverse psychology? Make me think she wanted me to refuse so I'd do the opposite? Or was it genuine? A mother's final warning to run while I still could? I couldn't tell anymore. Didn't know what was real and what was performance. 30 years of lies and manipulation and love twisted into something I couldn't recognize. Vincent checked his watch. It's almost 1 a.m. Bank opens in 8 hours. I suggest you get some sleep. You'll want to be sharp tomorrow. I want to talk to them, I said suddenly. Take off the gags. Let me hear what they have to say. Vincent considered this. Shrugged. Why not? Last words are traditional. He reached into the trunk, yanked the gag from Daniel's mouth first. My son gasped, coughed, and immediately started talking. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. He said it was just business. He said we'd all make money. I didn't mean to. Did you take out life insurance on me? I interrupted. $2 million, 3 months ago. Daniel's face crumbled. He told you about that. Did you? Yes, but Mom, I wasn't going to. I didn't actually plan to. It was just insurance, just in case. In case I wouldn't give you the money? My voice was flat. In case I said no? You were going to kill me? No. Daniel was sobbing now. No, I swear. He said I needed collateral, needed to prove I was serious. I never would have actually. But you did consider it. It wasn't a question. Daniel's silence was answer enough. I turned away from him, looked at Vincent. My mother. Ungag her. Vincent pulled the gag from my mother's mouth. She gasped for air, licked her cracked lips, and fixed those eyes on mine. Ellie Bird. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't call me that. You don't get to call me that. Not after 30 years. Not after this. Baby, please listen. Did you set this up? I asked. All of it. Did you manipulate Daniel into betraying me so I'd have to pay your debts? My mother's face twisted with something that might have been pain or guilt or love. I couldn't tell anymore. Yes, she whispered. The word hung in the cold air like a knife. I set it up. I watched Daniel for years, saw the greed growing in him, saw him looking for shortcuts, for easy money. I left documents where he'd find them, made it easy for him to contact Vincent. I knew what would happen. I knew he'd take everything from you. Tears spilled down her swollen cheeks. Because I needed you desperate, baby. I needed you alone and broke and angry enough to actually ease the money instead of trying to be noble, trying to pay it all back, trying to do the right thing. I needed you to choose yourself for once in your goddamn life. You sacrificed me, I whispered. You threw me to the wolves. I gave you teeth, my mother said fiercely. I gave you claws. $20 million, new identities, offshore accounts, everything you need to disappear and never look back. I gave you what I never had a choice. You call this a choice? Yes. She was crying openly now. You can give him the money, pay my debt, save your son and your mother, and go back to your sad little life with nothing. Or you can take the money and run. Let us pay for our own mistakes. Save yourself. That's a choice, Ellie. That's freedom. Vincent was watching this exchange with obvious amusement. Beautiful. Truly. The gift of betrayal wrapped in maternal love. My mother grabbed my hand through the trunk, her fingers ice cold, trembling. I'm dying, baby. I'll be dead in 3 months no matter what you do. But you can live. You can take that money and become someone new. Someone who doesn't sacrifice herself for people who don't deserve it. She squeezed my hand hard. Don't pay my debt, she whispered. Please, let me do this one thing right. Let me save you the only way I know how. I looked at Daniel. At my son, crying and broken and sorry, but only because he'd been caught. I looked at my mother. At the woman who'd left me, manipulated me, but also maybe tried to save me in the only twisted way she knew. I looked at Vincent. At the man who'd owned my mother for years and wanted to own me too. 3 people who'd lied to me, used me, betrayed me, and 1 key in my pocket that could buy my freedom. My mother grabbed my arm with surprising strength and whispered, "The safety deposit box. I didn't steal 2 million, Ellie. I stole 8, and I've spent 30 years turning it into 20. The key, it's your way out. It's our way out." Then she said something that made my blood run cold. But there's a second key, hidden in the lining of the mink coat, box 1248, right next to mine. That box contains something Vincent doesn't know about: evidence, recordings, documents. Everything he's done for 40 years, enough to bury him and everyone he works with. Vincent's smile vanished. What? My mother smiled through her broken teeth. Did you really think I'd spend 30 years running without insurance? Without a way to fight back? I've been collecting evidence on you since 1995, you bastard. Every transaction, every crime, every body. She looked at me. You want a choice, Ellie? Here it is. Pay the debt and let him win. or take both boxes and burn his entire world to the ground. But you have to decide fast. Because I set up a dead man's switch. If I don't check in every 48 hours, all that evidence goes to the FBI automatically. And I'm about 36 hours overdue. Vincent's face transformed into something animal, dangerous. He pulled out a gun, pointed it at my mother's head. Where's the second key? The gun looked massive in the dim parking garage light. Vincent pressed it against my mother's temple, his finger tight on the trigger, and for the first time since I'd met him 20 minutes ago, he looked genuinely afraid. Where, he repeated slowly, is the second key? My mother smiled, blood on her teeth, face battered, gun to her head, and she smiled. You think I'd tell you? She laughed, and it sounded wrong, cracked, like something breaking. You think after 30 years of running, hiding, planning, I'd just hand you the one thing that could destroy you? I will kill you right now. Vincent's voice was shaking. I will put a bullet in your brain and dump you in the harbor. Then you'll never find it, my mother said calmly. And in 36 hours, every federal agency in the country will have copies of your entire operation. Names, dates, wire transfers. The senator you bought in 2008, the judge you blackmailed in 2015, the bodies buried in Jersey. All of it. You're bluffing. Am I? My mother's eyes found mine. Ellie, the coat. Check the lining. My hands moved automatically, reaching into my purse, pulling out the mink coat. I ran my fingers along the silk lining, feeling for, there, a small bump. A cut in the fabric, carefully stitched shut. I tore it open. A key fell into my palm, identical to the first one, but stamped with a different number, 1248. Vincent's face went pale. You crazy bitch, he whispered. I'm dying anyway, my mother said. What are you going to do? Kill me faster? You'd be doing me a favor. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer is a bitch, Vincent. Some days I pray for a bullet. She turned her head, looking up at him despite the gun pressed to her skull. But Ellie? Her voice softened. Ellie's got her whole life ahead of her, and you're not going to touch her. Because if anything happens to her, anything, my lawyer has instructions to release everything immediately, not 36 hours, immediately. You don't have a lawyer, Vincent said, but he didn't sound sure anymore. Robert Kimura, works out of Seattle, used to be a prosecutor before you had his daughter killed in that hit and run you staged in 2012. My mother's smile widened. He's been waiting 15 years for a chance to bury you. I gave him that chance, along with a very generous retainer and extremely specific instructions. The parking garage was silent except for the idling Mercedes and Daniel's quiet sobbing. Vincent's hand was shaking now. The gun wavered. You're telling me, he said slowly, that if I kill you, I'm finished. If I kill her, he gestured at me with his free hand, I'm finished. If I don't get that evidence back in 36 hours, I'm finished. Now you're catching on, my mother said. So what's your play? Vincent's voice was rising. What do you want? My mother looked at me. I want my daughter to make a choice. A real one. Not the choice I made running and hiding and spending 30 years looking over my shoulder. And not the choice you made letting people you love destroy you because you're too weak to fight back. Mama. Listen to me, Ellie Bird. Her voice was urgent now, desperate. That safety deposit box 1247 has the money. $20 million, clean, untraceable, enough to disappear forever. New identity, new life, anywhere in the world you want. She paused. Box 1248 has the evidence. Everything on Vincent and everyone he's ever worked with. Enough to put him away for life, to dismantle his entire organization, to make sure he never hurts anyone again. I don't understand. You can take the money and run, my mother interrupted. Walk away. Let Vincent keep his empire. Save yourself. Or, her eyes locked with mine. Or you can take the evidence and fight. Turn it over to the FBI. Testify. Spend the next year of your life in protective custody while they build their case. Risk everything, but end this. Make sure Daniel and every other desperate kid Vincent recruits doesn't end up like us. Vincent laughed, harsh, bitter. This is insane. You're giving her an impossible choice. Take the money and spend her life running from me, or take the evidence and spend it running from everyone I know. Either way, she's dead within a year. Maybe, my mother said. Or maybe she's smarter than both of us. Maybe she figures out a third option we're too stupid to see. I stood there, holding both keys, feeling their weight in my palm. One key, freedom, money, escape. The other key, justice, vengeance, war. There's also the option, Daniel said suddenly, his voice raw from crying, where Mom doesn't do either of those things, where she walks away and lets us all deal with our own mess. Vincent turned the gun toward Daniel. Shut up. No. Daniel's voice was stronger now. You want her to feel guilty, to feel responsible, to sacrifice herself again. That's what you both want. Grandma wants her to be a hero. You want her to be a victim. But maybe, his voice cracked, maybe she should just leave. Let me pay for what I did. Let Grandma die with her debts. Let Vincent rot in his own empire. Maybe Mom deserves to just be free. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was still crying, but there was something different in his eyes now, something that might have been genuine remorse or might have been another manipulation. I couldn't tell anymore. You took out life insurance on me, I said quietly. $2 million. Daniel flinched. I know. You convinced me to sell my house, drain my retirement, give you everything. I know. And when I had nothing left, you drove away and left me stranded. I know. Daniel was sobbing again. I know what I did, Mom. I know I'm a piece of shit. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm still your son. And I'm telling you, you don't owe us anything. Not me. Not her. Run. My mother was staring at Daniel like she'd never seen him before. Well, she said softly, maybe there's hope for you after all, boy. Vincent had lowered the gun slightly, looking between the three of us like we were speaking a language he didn't understand. This is touching, he said, but we still have a problem. I want that evidence, and I want my money. And I have, he checked his watch, approximately 34 hours to get both before my life explodes. He pointed the gun at me now. So here's the new deal, Eleanor. You're going to that bank at 9 a.m. You're going to open both boxes. You're going to bring me the money and the evidence. And in exchange, I let all three of you walk away. Clean, no retaliation, no hunting, just done. You're lying, I said. Of course I'm lying. Vincent smiled. But what choice do you have? The moment you access those boxes, I'll know. I have people at the bank, people everywhere. You can't run, you can't hide, you can't win. Then why make a deal at all? Because, Vincent's smile faded, because your mother's right. If she dies, if you die, if anything happens in the next 34 hours, I'm finished. So I need you alive. I need you cooperative. I need you to believe there's a way out where everyone survives. I need you to believe there's a way out. But there isn't, I said. No, Vincent agreed. There really isn't. The silence stretched. Cold air, exhaust fumes, the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My mother spoke first. Ellie, look at me. I did. I have lived 58 years making the wrong choices, she said. Running when I should have fought, fighting when I should have run, sacrificing people I loved to save myself, sacrificing myself to save people who didn't deserve it. I got every single thing wrong. Tears were streaming down her face now. But you still have time. You can still choose. And whatever you choose, baby, I'll support it. Run, fight, walk away. Whatever feels right to you. Not me, not him. Not Daniel. You. She smiled through the blood and the tears, and the gun still pressed to her head. That's the real gift I'm giving you, Ellie Bird. Not the money, not the evidence, just permission. Permission to be selfish, permission to survive. Permission to finally put yourself first. Vincent made a disgusted sound. Beautiful speech, really. But she still has to. My phone buzzed. All of us jumped. Vincent's finger tightened on the trigger. I pulled it out slowly. Text message. Unknown number. Miss Whitmore, this is Robert Kimura, attorney at law. Your mother has listed you as an emergency contact. I'm obligated to inform you that if she doesn't check in within the next 34 hours, I will be executing her final instructions. This message serves as your legal notification. Reply yes to confirm receipt. I showed the screen to Vincent. His face went gray. It's real, I said quietly. The dead man's switch, the lawyer, all of it. She wasn't bluffing. Vincent's hand dropped to his side, the gun pointing at the concrete now. He looked suddenly old, tired. So what happens now? He asked. And for the first time, he sounded genuinely uncertain. I looked at the 2 keys in my hand. 1,247, freedom. 1,248, justice. I looked at my mother, beaten and dying, but somehow still fighting. I looked at Daniel, broken and ashamed, but maybe, just maybe, finally understanding what he'd done. I looked at Vincent, powerful and dangerous, but also in this moment, trapped by my mother's 30-year game. And I made my choice. I'll go to the bank tomorrow, I said. 9 a.m. I'll open both boxes. Vincent's shoulders relaxed slightly. And? I smiled. My mother's smile, dangerous and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. And then you'll find out what I decide to do with what's inside. Before anyone could respond, I turned and walked toward the parking garage exit. My legs were shaking, but I kept walking. Eleanor, Vincent shouted. If you run, if you try anything, then your 34 hours get shorter, I called back without turning around. My mother's lawyer has my number now. I'm sure he'd be very interested to hear that you're threatening me, that you have my mother and son hostage, that you're the head of a criminal organization. I reached the stairwell door, paused, looked back. Or you can wait until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Let me do what I need to do, and maybe we all walk away from this alive. I pulled open the door. See you in the morning, Vincent. Oh, and one more thing. I held up my phone, showing the voice recording app that had been running the entire conversation. 34 hours, I said. Tick-tock. Then I disappeared into the stairwell, leaving 3 people in that parking garage to wonder what the hell I was going to do next. Honestly, I had no idea either. But for the first time in 58 years, the choice was finally, completely, terrifyingly mine. I made it to the hotel lobby before my legs gave out. Collapsed into one of those overpriced leather armchairs by the fireplace, shaking so hard I thought I might fly apart. The recording app was still running on my phone. Vincent's threats, my mother's confession, Daniel's apology, all of it captured in a 17-minute audio file that could either save my life or end it. I stopped the recording, saved it, emailed it to myself, to 3 different addresses, just in case. Then I threw up in a potted plant. Ma'am? Brittany appeared beside me, holding a bottle of water. Are you okay? Do you need me to call someone? I took the water with shaking hands. How long have you been working for him? She went pale. I don't know what you... Vincent, how long? Brittany glanced at the security cameras, then sat down beside me, speaking quietly. 3 years. He owns the hotel, owns half the businesses on this block. When your mother showed up 6 months ago and paid for that room in cash, he knew immediately. He always knows. So you've been watching me, reporting back. I didn't have a choice. Brittany's voice cracked. My sister, he has her working in one of his clubs. If I don't cooperate, she... She didn't finish. Didn't need to. I looked at this girl, 23, maybe 24, trapped in the same web my mother had been caught in 30 years ago. How many of us were there? How many desperate women had Vincent recruited, owned, destroyed? What time does Harbor Trust Bank open? I asked. 9 a.m. But Miss Whitmore, Brittany leaned closer. He has people there. Security guards, tellers, even the bank manager. The moment you walk in, he'll know. The moment you open those boxes, he'll know what's inside. So I can't win. Nobody wins against Vincent. She said it like a prayer, like something she'd been taught to believe. He always has a plan. He's always 3 steps ahead. I thought about my mother, 58 years of running, hiding, planning her revenge, 30 years preparing for this moment. And I thought about Vincent's face in that parking garage when he realized the dead man's switch was real. The fear, the uncertainty. He wasn't 3 steps ahead, not this time. For the first time in 40 years, Vincent Zhao was scared. I need to get out of here, I said, standing up. Without him knowing. Is there another exit? Brittany studied me for a long moment. Then she made a decision. Service entrance. Through the kitchen, down the loading dock. No cameras on that route, they've been broken for 2 months, and Vincent won't pay to fix them. She pulled a key card from her pocket. This will get you through the staff doors. Go now, before the next shift change. Why are you helping me? Brittany's eyes filled with tears. Because someone needs to win. Just once, someone needs to get out. I squeezed her hand. Your sister. What's her name? Maya. She's 19. He recruited her straight out of high school, said she could make good money dancing. But it's not dancing, it's... Her voice broke. I know, I said quietly. I know what it is. I pulled out my phone, sent the recording to one more email address, one I'd memorized years ago but never used. A friend from college who'd become an FBI agent. We hadn't spoken in a decade, but I had to believe she'd still help. Subject line. Everything you need to destroy Vincent Zhao. But I need 12 hours, please. Sent. If this works, I told Brittany, your sister goes free. Everyone he owns goes free, I promise. And if it doesn't? I smiled grimly. Then we're all dead anyway. Might as well go down fighting. I made it out through the service entrance at 2:47 a.m. The loading dock smelled like garbage and grease, but the cold night air felt like freedom. I had 6 hours until the bank opened. 6 hours to figure out a plan that wouldn't get me, my mother, and my son killed. I walked 3 blocks before I felt safe enough to stop. Found an all-night diner, one of those places that's seen better decades, with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like burnt regret. I ordered eggs I wouldn't eat and coffee I desperately needed, and I spread everything out on the table. 2 keys. My mother's letter. 3 photographs. Vincent's threats recorded on my phone. And $17 in cash. Rough night? I looked up. The waitress, 60-something, gray hair pulled back, name tag reading Dolores, was refilling my coffee with a look that said she'd seen it all and wasn't surprised by anything anymore. You could say that. Man trouble or money trouble? Dolores asked. Usually one of the two at this hour. Both. Plus family trouble. The unholy trinity. She laughed deep and genuine. Honey, I've been married 3 times and bankrupted twice. I know that trinity personally. She slid into the booth across from me. You running from someone or toward something? I stared at this stranger who'd just sat down uninvited, and something in me cracked open. My mother abandoned me 30 years ago, I heard myself say. Tonight I found out she was running from a gangster who owned her. She stole money from him to protect me, spent 3 decades hiding, and now she's dying. Cancer. 6 months to live, except she's been beaten half to death and is currently being held hostage by the same man she ran from. Dolores whistled low. That's a hell of a night. My son betrayed me. Took everything I had. Took out life insurance on me. Planned to. I couldn't finish. And now the gangster wants me to choose. Pay my mother's debt and lose everything, or take evidence that could destroy him and put everyone I love in danger. So what are you going to do? I looked down at the 2 keys. I don't know. My mother says I should save myself. My son says I should walk away. Vincent thinks I'll do whatever he says because I'm scared. But you're not scared, Dolores said. It wasn't a question. I'm terrified, I admitted. I'm 58 years old. I have $17 and no plan. I'm going up against someone who has unlimited resources and 40 years of experience destroying people who cross him. And I'm so angry I can barely breathe. The words came out fierce, surprising even me. I'm angry at my mother for leaving, at Daniel for betraying me, at Vincent for existing, at myself for being stupid enough to trust people who didn't deserve it. Dolores smiled. There it is. That's the thing that'll keep you alive. Not love, not fear, anger. She stood up, refilled my coffee one more time. You want my advice? And honey, I'm gonna give it whether you want it or not. Don't choose between their options. Make your own. Rich men like your gangster, they think they own the game. They think they control the board. But you know what they forget? What? That the board can flip, that the game can change, that desperate women with nothing to lose are the most dangerous creatures on earth. She winked. Go burn his world down, sweetie, but do it smart. She walked away before I could respond, leaving me alone with cold eggs and a new idea forming in my mind. At 7:30 a.m., I called Robert Kimura, the lawyer. He answered on the first ring. Miss Whitmore, I was expecting your call. Is it real? The dead man's switch? The evidence? Very real. Your mother has been meticulous. I have encrypted files, recordings, financial documents enough to dismantle Vincent Zhao's entire organization and implicate at least 40 people in his network, including 2 senators, a federal judge, and 5 police captains. My heart was racing. And if I don't check in, you'll release it? That's correct. However, he paused. I should tell you that your mother gave me additional instructions, a contingency plan. What kind of contingency? If you access Safety Deposit Box 1248 and retrieve the evidence yourself, you have the option to negotiate. Use it as leverage. Your mother believed you might be able to extract better terms than simply burning everything down. Better terms? Freedom for your family, protection, witness relocation, in exchange for testimony that ensures convictions. His voice softened. Your mother wanted you to have options, Miss Whitmore. Real ones, not the impossible choices that destroyed her life. I closed my eyes. Even dying, even beaten and broken, my mother was still trying to save me, still playing 3-dimensional chess while the rest of us struggled with checkers. Mr. Kimura, I need you to do something for me. Name it. Wait until 9:30 a.m. That's 90 minutes after the bank opens. If you don't hear from me by 9:30, release everything. Don't wait for the 48 hours. Just burn it all down. Miss Whitmore, that doesn't give you much time. I know, but if my plan works, I won't need more time. And if it doesn't, I swallowed hard. Then make sure he pays. Make sure everyone knows what Vincent Zhao is. Make sure no one else's mother has to run. No one else's daughter has to choose. Silence on the other end. Then, your mother would be proud of you. My mother manipulated me into this nightmare. Your mother gave you the tools to end it, Kimura corrected gently. What you do with those tools, that's all you. I hung up. At 8:45 a.m., I walked into Harbor Trust Bank. The building was old-school, impressive marble floors, vaulted ceilings, the kind of place that wanted you to feel small and intimidated. 3 security guards I recognized from Vincent's parking garage were stationed at strategic points. They saw me. I saw them see me. I walked to the front desk. I need to access my safety deposit boxes, numbers 1247 and 1248. The clerk, young, nervous, definitely on Vincent's payroll, typed something into his computer, picked up a phone, whispered something I couldn't hear. Of course, Miss Whitmore, if you'll follow me. He led me through a maze of corridors to the vault room, massive steel door, biometric scanners, everything designed to keep people out or in, depending on your perspective. I'll need your keys and identification. I handed them over, watched him verify everything, saw him send another text on his phone, probably to Vincent, letting him know I was here, that I was cooperating, that everything was going according to plan. Except it wasn't. Because while he was checking my ID, I was checking the security cameras, counting them, noting their angles, seeing the blind spots. This way, please. He led me into a private room, small, windowless, just me and two safety deposit boxes on the table. 1,247 and 1,248. My mother's legacy, contained in two metal boxes. "I'll give you privacy," the clerk said, backing toward the door. "Wait." I turned to face him. "What's your name?" He looked confused. "Marcus." "Marcus, how much is Vincent paying you to spy on me?" His face went white. "I don't know what. I have a recording of Vincent Zhao confessing to murder, extortion, money laundering, and human trafficking. I have documents proving he owns this bank, its manager, and probably you. And I checked my watch 42 minutes, all of that goes to the FBI unless I stop it." Marcus's hand moved toward his phone. "Don't," I said quietly. "Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out of this room. You're going to tell Vincent that I'm accessing the boxes, that everything looks normal. And then you're going to walk out the front door of this bank and never come back." "He'll kill me." "He's going to prison," I interrupted. "Everyone who works for him is going to prison unless they cooperate. So you can be the guy who went down with him, or you can be the guy who walked away in time. Your choice, Marcus. But you've got about 30 seconds to make it." He stared at me, calculating, terrified. Then he turned and ran. I heard his footsteps echoing down the corridor, heard the vault door slam shut. I was alone. I opened box 1247 first. Money, stacks and stacks of it, bonds, bank statements. My mother hadn't been lying. $20 million, maybe more. Enough to disappear forever, enough to buy a new life anywhere in the world. I stared at it for exactly 10 seconds. Then I closed it and opened box 1248. Flash drives, documents, photographs, recordings on cassette tapes, ancient technology that Vincent probably thought was destroyed decades ago. And a note, in my mother's handwriting. "Ellie Bird, if you're reading this, you chose justice over safety. That means you're braver than I ever was. The evidence in this box will destroy Vincent, but it will also paint a target on your back. So here's what you do. Take everything. Both boxes. Run to the FBI field office on 5th Street. Ask for Agent Sarah Chen. Yes, we're related, your cousin, believe it or not. She's been trying to build a case against Vincent for 10 years. Give her everything. Testify. Fight. And when it's over, use the money to disappear anyway. You can be brave and smart. Love, Mama." I stared at the note. Agent Sarah Chen. The college friend I'd emailed at 2 a.m. My mother had known. She'd planned this. Every step, every choice, even the ones I thought I was making independently. And you know what? I didn't even care anymore. Because she was right. I could be brave and smart. I could choose justice and freedom. I could take everything. So I did. I loaded both boxes into my bag, every dollar, every document, every piece of evidence. It was heavy. God, it was heavy. But I'd carried heavier things. Like 30 years of abandonment, like a son's betrayal, like the weight of always choosing other people over myself. This I could carry. I walked out of that private room at 9:17 a.m. The security guards were waiting in the corridor, blocking my exit. "Miss Whitmore," one of them said, "Mr. Zhao would like to see you. Now." I smiled. "Tell Mr. Zhao I'll see him in court." Then I hit the fire alarm. The fire alarm shrieked through Harbor Trust Bank like the end of the world. Sprinklers erupted from the ceiling, cold water cascading down, soaking everything, turning the marble floors into ice rinks. People screamed, scattered. The security guards lunged for me, but the sudden chaos made them slip, stumble, grab for handrails that weren't there. I ran. My bag heavy with $20 million and 40 years of evidence slammed against my hip with every step. The weight should have slowed me down, should have made me clumsy, but adrenaline turned me into something I'd never been before. Fast, decisive, dangerous. "Stop her!" One of the guards was on his feet, reaching for his radio. But I was already through the vault door, already in the main lobby where pandemonium had taken over. Bank customers flooding toward exits, employees abandoning their stations, everyone following the universal instinct. Get out, get safe, get away from whatever's burning. Except nothing was burning. Just me, just my bridges, just my old life going up in smoke while I sprinted toward something new. I hit the revolving door at full speed, burst onto the street at 9:19 a.m., and nearly collided with a woman getting out of a black sedan. "Eleanor Whitmore?" she asked. I skidded to a stop. She was 40-something, Asian, wearing an FBI windbreaker and an expression that said she'd been waiting for this moment her entire career. "Agent Sarah Chen?" She smiled, and I saw my mother's smile in it. Family, blood, the cousin I never knew I had. "Mom told me you'd probably do something dramatic," Sarah said. "Fire alarm was a nice touch. Come on, we've got maybe 2 minutes before Vincent's people figure out what's happening." She grabbed my arm, pulled me into the sedan. 2 more agents in the front seat, engine already running. We peeled away from the curb just as the security guards burst out of the bank, shouting into their radios, pointing at our disappearing car. "You got everything?" Sarah asked. I patted the bag. Both boxes, every document, every recording, every dollar. Jesus. Sarah's eyes widened. "Aunt Linda said you'd either get yourself killed or pull off the impossible. Looks like you chose option 2. "Aunt Linda?" I repeated. "You've been in contact with her?" "For 5 years. Ever since I transferred to the organized crime unit and started investigating Vincent Zhao." Sarah pulled out a tablet, started typing rapidly. She reached out, said she had evidence but couldn't come forward herself, too many warrants, too much history. So we made a deal. She'd gather everything, I'd build the case, and when the time was right, she'd send me. I finished. Sarah nodded. "She didn't tell me about the cancer until 3 months ago, said she was running out of time, that Vincent would make his move soon, that you'd be the one to finish what she started." I stared out the window, watching the city blur past. She manipulated me. My whole life, everything. "She saved you," Sarah corrected gently. "Everything she did, leaving you, stealing that money, running for 30 years, it was all to keep you out of Vincent's world. And now you're the one who's going to end him. What about my mother? And Daniel? Vincent has them." "We know." Sarah's expression hardened. "We've had surveillance on that parking garage since you sent me the recording at 2 a.m. We've got eyes on your mother, your son, and Vincent Zhao. The moment we have everything processed and verified, we're going in. Federal raid, multiple warrants, SWAT teams." "How long?" 2 hours, maybe 3. "We need to catalog the evidence, verify the chain of custody, coordinate with other agencies." "He'll kill them in 2 hours." I grabbed Sarah's arm. "You don't understand. He knows I took everything. He knows the dead man's switch is real. He's got nothing to lose." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We can't move without proper authorization. If we breach now, defense attorneys will tear it apart in court. Everything your mother collected for 30 years could be ruled inadmissible. Vincent walks. Everyone walks. So we sacrifice my mother and son for proper procedure?" "We do our jobs," Sarah said, but I could hear the conflict in her voice. "We do this right, or we don't do it at all." The car pulled into an underground garage FBI field office, concrete and fluorescent lights, and a dozen agents waiting to process the evidence that would dismantle Vincent Zhao's empire. I looked at the bag between my feet. $20 million, 40 years of crimes, my mother's legacy. And I made another choice. "I need to go back," I said. Sarah blinked. "What?" "Vincent thinks I'm running, thinks I'm scared, thinks I'll hide behind FBI protection while you build your case." I met her eyes. But my mother didn't spend 30 years running just so I could do the same. She gave me these tools to fight. "Eleanor, that's suicide. It's negotiation." I was already opening the car door. "You want Vincent? I'll deliver him. But I need 2 things. A wire and your word that you'll breach that parking garage the moment things go wrong. We can't authorize." "I'm not asking for authorization. I'm asking for backup." I pulled the bag onto my lap. "Vincent wants this evidence, wants it bad enough to negotiate, bad enough to make mistakes, and I'm going to give him exactly what he wants, right into a trap. Sarah stared at me. Then, slowly, she smiled. You're Aunt Linda's daughter, all right? Absolutely insane. Is that a yes? She pulled out her phone, typed something rapidly. I can't officially sanction this, but I can have a tactical team on standby 3 blocks from that parking garage, and I can wire you up. What happens after that? She shrugged. Well, you're just a civilian having a conversation, right? If that conversation happens to be recorded and admissible in court, that's just lucky. How fast can you get me back there? Sarah checked her watch. 9:34 a.m. 15 minutes. But Eleanor, once you walk into that garage, you're on your own until Vincent says something that gives us probable cause to breach. Can you keep him talking? Can you get him to confess on tape? I thought about my mother, beaten and dying but still playing the long game, still 3 steps ahead. I thought about Dolores at the diner. Desperate women with nothing to lose are the most dangerous creatures on earth. I thought about 30 years of being the good daughter, the good mother, the good woman who sacrificed everything and got nothing. Yeah, I said, I can keep him talking. At 9:52 a.m., I walked back into the parking garage. Level B3. The wire was taped between my shoulder blades so small I couldn't feel it, but knowing it was there felt like armor, like I wasn't alone. Like somewhere, 3 blocks away, Sarah and her team were listening to every word. The black Mercedes was still there, still idling. Vincent stood beside it, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders to someone. He saw me and froze mid-sentence. You came back, he said, and I couldn't tell if he was surprised or impressed. I came to negotiate. Vincent laughed, sharp and disbelieving. Negotiate? You pulled a fire alarm, stole both boxes, and ran to the FBI. What exactly do you think you have to negotiate with? Your freedom, I said simply. I pulled the bag off my shoulder, set it on the concrete between us, unzipped it slowly, showing him the stacks of cash, the flash drives, the documents. It's all here, I said. Everything you want. $20 million, every piece of evidence my mother collected. 40 years of your life on these drives. Vincent's eyes fixed on the bag like a starving man looking at food. What do you want? My mother, my son, and a 30-minute head start before you come after me. That's it? Vincent sounded suspicious. You're giving me everything, the money, the evidence, your mother's entire legacy for 30 minutes? I'm tired, I said, and it wasn't a lie. I'm 58 years old. I've been betrayed by everyone I love. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to be a hero. I just want to disappear. I could see him calculating, weighing, trying to figure out the trap. You already went to the FBI, he said slowly. You already gave them copies. I gave them a recording of one conversation in a parking garage. No context, no corroboration. Your lawyers would tear it apart. I nudged the bag with my foot. But this? This is everything. Bank statements with your signature, recordings of murders you ordered, photographs of bodies you buried. This is the difference between an investigation and a conviction. Vincent's phone rang. He glanced at it, silenced it, eyes never leaving the bag. If I take this deal, he said carefully, how do I know you won't go back to the FBI anyway? How do I know this isn't a trap? Because I'm going to leave the country, I said. Tonight, I've got $17 and a credit card that's maxed out. I'll be lucky to make it to Mexico, let alone build a new life. I need that 30-minute head start, and I need to know my mother and son are alive. That's all I want. It was almost convincing. Hell, part of me almost believed it myself. Vincent stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne, expensive, suffocating, the smell of everything I'd been running from my entire life without knowing it. Open the trunk, he said to someone behind me. I turned. 2 of Vincent's men had appeared from the shadows, flanking me. One of them popped the Mercedes trunk. My mother and Daniel were still inside, soaked from the sprinklers, shivering, barely conscious, but alive. Here's my counter-offer, Vincent said. I take the bag. I keep your mother and son for 48 hours just to make sure you don't change your mind about that FBI tip. After 48 hours, if there's no raid, no investigation, no problems, I let them go. That wasn't the deal. That's the new deal. Vincent's voice went cold. Because I don't trust you, Eleanor. I don't trust anyone who walks into a fire and comes out holding gasoline. My heart was hammering. Behind me, I could almost feel Sarah and her team listening, waiting for Vincent to say something incriminating enough to justify a breach. But he was too careful, too experienced. I needed him angry, needed him sloppy. You're right, I said quietly. You shouldn't trust me, because I lied. Vincent's eyes narrowed. About what? About giving you everything. I reached into my jacket pocket slowly, carefully, watching his men tense, and pulled out a single flash drive. This is box 1248, the evidence. Everything you've ever done, every crime, every body, every payment to every corrupt cop and politician and judge. I held it up between two fingers. What's in the bag is box 1247, the money. $20 million in cash and bearer bonds. But you don't get this. I shook the flash drive unless you let them go. Right now. Both of them. You must think I'm stupid, Vincent said. I think you're smart enough to know that if anything happens to me, my cousin FBI agent Sarah Chen gets instructions to release everything on this drive to every news organization in the country. Not just law enforcement. Everywhere. Vincent went very still. Your cousin? Did you really think my mother spent 30 years running without building a backup plan? Without making sure someone in law enforcement was ready to carry the torch? I smiled. Family business, Vincent. It's always been family business. I could see the fear creeping back into his eyes now, the uncertainty. So, here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady despite the terror coursing through my veins. You let my mother and son out of that trunk. You let them walk away. And I give you this drive, the only copy of the evidence that could destroy you. You get the money, you get your secrets back, and I get my family. And then what? Vincent asked. You all just leave? Start over? Forget this ever happened? We don't have a choice, I said. You've already won, Vincent. You always win. We're just trying to survive. He studied me for a long, terrible moment. Then he nodded to his men. Get them out. They pulled my mother and Daniel from the trunk roughly, carelessly, dropping them onto the concrete. My mother could barely stand. Daniel was sobbing, apologizing, breaking into pieces. Come here, I told them. Both of you. Now. They stumbled toward me. My mother's eyes found mine, and I saw the question there. What are you doing? I touched her hand, squeezed it. 3 short pulses, like the SOS I'd learned in Girl Scouts 40 years ago. She understood. The drive, Vincent demanded, holding out his hand. I walked toward him. Flash drive extended, my family behind me, the bag of money on the ground between us. You know what the funny thing is? I said conversationally. My mother spent 30 years running from you. Terrified, broken, convinced you were this unstoppable force. I was 3 feet away now, close enough to see the calculation in his eyes. But you're not unstoppable, I said softly. You're just a man who hurts desperate women because it makes you feel powerful. And you know what happens to men like you? What? Vincent's hand closed around the flash drive. I smiled, my mother's smile. Dangerous and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. They get old, they get sloppy, and they confess to federal crimes while wearing a wire. Vincent's face went white. You want to know what's really on that drive? I asked. Not evidence, just vacation photos, random files, nothing. I raised my voice slightly, speaking directly to the wire taped to my back. But everything you just said about keeping hostages, about bribing judges, about not trusting me because you know you're guilty, that's all recorded, and Agent Sarah Chen has been listening to every word. The sound of screeching tires echoed through the parking garage. Black SUVs, 4 of them, burst through the entrance, tires screaming, agents pouring out with weapons drawn. FBI, hands where we can see them. Vincent's men scattered, reaching for weapons they'd never draw in time. But Vincent just stood there, staring at me with something that might have been respect or might have been rage, I couldn't tell, and didn't care. "You played me," he said quietly. "No," I corrected, backing toward my mother and Daniel as FBI agents swarmed Vincent. "My mother played you. For 30 years, I just finished the game." Sarah appeared beside me, gun drawn, professional and fierce. "Eleanor Whitmore, you're the worst civilian informant I've ever worked with." "Does that mean it worked?" "We got everything. Hostage situation, threats, confession to bribing public officials enough for federal conspiracy charges, and about 40 other warrants." She grinned. "Vincent Zhao is going to die in prison. I watched them handcuff him, watched him struggle, watched 40 years of power and cruelty and control crumble into a pathetic old man being read his rights. And I felt nothing. No triumph, no relief. Just tired. "Mom?" Daniel's voice, small and broken behind me. I turned. My son, my betrayer, my baby was staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You saved us," he whispered. "No," I said flatly. "Your grandmother saved us. I just didn't waste it." I walked past him to where my mother had collapsed against a concrete pillar, breathing hard, clutching her ribs. "Mama," I said, kneeling beside her. She looked up at me, 70 years old and dying, and absolutely victorious. "You flipped the board," she whispered, and laughed, and coughed up blood. "Just like I taught you." "You never taught me anything," I said. "You left." "I taught you everything that mattered." Her hand found mine, cold and trembling. "I taught you that love isn't about staying. It's about doing whatever it takes, even terrible things, even unforgivable things, to make sure the people you love survive." Tears were streaming down my face. "You manipulated me, used me, turned me into bait." "I gave you teeth," she corrected, exactly like she'd said in that parking garage a lifetime ago. "And you used them. You fought back. You won." "We won," I whispered. My mother smiled. "Yeah, baby, we won." Then her eyes closed, and paramedics were pushing me aside, loading her onto a stretcher, shouting medical terms I didn't understand. Sarah's hand on my shoulder. "She's tough. If anyone can survive this, it's Aunt Linda." I watched them wheel my mother away, the woman who'd abandoned me, saved me, destroyed me, rebuilt me, and wondered if I'd ever see her alive again. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now?" Sarah handed me a business card. "Now you testify. Now we build the biggest RICO case this city's ever seen. Now we dismantle Vincent's entire organization and free everyone he owns, including Brittany's sister and about 40 other women." She paused. "And now you figure out what Eleanor Whitmore wants to do with the rest of her life. Because you've got $20 million in that bag, no debts, and a chance to finally choose yourself." I looked at Daniel, sobbing against a police car. I looked at the paramedics loading my mother into an ambulance. I looked at the bag of money that had caused all of this. And I made my final choice. "Keep it," I said, pushing the bag toward Sarah. "All of it. Use it for witness protection. For the women Vincent trafficked. For whatever you need to make sure this case sticks." "Eleanor, that's $20 million. "I don't want his money," I interrupted. "I don't want anything that came from him. I just want—" What did I want? For the first time in 58 years, I actually didn't know. And somehow, that felt like freedom. The paramedics slammed the ambulance doors, and my mother disappeared behind tinted windows and flashing red lights. Gone again. Just like 30 years ago, except this time I knew where she was going. This time I could follow. "I'm riding with her," I told Sarah. "Eleanor, you need to give a statement. We need your testimony while everything's fresh." "Then it can wait." My voice came out harder than I intended. "I've waited 30 years for answers. The FBI can wait 30 minutes. Sarah studied me, then nodded. "I'll meet you at County General. 1 hour. Don't leave the hospital without talking to me first. You're a material witness now. We need to keep you safe." Safe. The word felt foreign, like a language I'd never learned. I climbed into the second ambulance, the one loading Daniel, who couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop crying, couldn't stop saying, "I'm sorry," over and over like a prayer that would never be answered. "Ma'am, are you family?" The EMT blocked my path. "I'm his mother." She hesitated, looking between Daniel's broken face and mine. Whatever she saw there made her step aside. I sat across from my son in that cramped space, the smell of antiseptic and blood, and 30 years of terrible choices packed between us like a third passenger. "Mom, Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't apologize. Don't explain. Don't say anything until I ask you a direct question. Can you do that?" Daniel nodded miserably. The ambulance lurched forward, sirens wailing. Through the small window, I could see Vincent being shoved into a police car, his silver hair messed up for the first time since I'd met him, his expensive suit torn. Small, pathetic, human. Funny how monsters always looked smaller once you stopped running from them. "Question 1, I said quietly. "The life insurance policy. $2 million. Did you plan to kill me?" Daniel's face crumbled. "No. I thought about it." "God, Mom. I thought about it. Vincent said it would be easy. An accident. You wouldn't suffer. And I'd have the money to pay him back, to get out from under all the debt, to finally—" "Stop talking." My voice was ice. "You thought about it. That's all I needed to know. Because you didn't get the chance. Because your grandmother had a plan. Because I walked into that bank and flipped the board." I leaned forward. "Not because you suddenly grew a conscience." Daniel had no answer for that. "Question 2, I continued. "When did it start? When did Vincent first contact you?" 6 months ago." Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "I found some papers in your attic when you asked me to help clean it out. Documents with Grandma's name on them. Bank statements from the 90 seconds. I Googled her, found nothing, got curious, started digging." He wiped his face with a shaking hand. "There was a phone number, written on one of the statements. I called it, just to see. And Vincent answered. Said he'd been hoping someone from the family would reach out eventually. Said Grandma had stolen from him. Said the debt passed down through bloodlines. And you believed him. He sent me proof. Photos of her with him. Copies of the money she'd taken. He said," Daniel's voice cracked. "He said if I helped him collect what she owed, he'd cut me in. Give me a percentage. Make me part of his organization. I'd finally be somebody, you know? Finally be more than a middle manager pushing papers for a company that doesn't even know my name." The EMT was trying not to listen, but I saw her face tighten. Judgment, disgust. The same expression I was fighting to keep off my own face. "So you sold me out for money and status." "I sold you out because I'm a coward," Daniel said, and something in his voice had changed, hollowed out. "Because Vincent saw what I am, a 40-year-old failure living off his mother. Because he offered me a chance to be powerful, and I took it without thinking about what it would cost you." He looked at me with eyes so much like mine it hurt. "I'm just like him, aren't I? Like Vincent. Like everyone who uses people and throws them away." I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him he was my son, my baby, that people made mistakes, that love could fix anything. But I was so tired of lying. "Yeah," I said quietly. "You are." Daniel made a sound like something breaking inside him. "But you know what the difference is?" I continued. "Vincent never knew he was a monster. He thought he was smart, powerful, entitled to take whatever he wanted. You?" I met his eyes. "You know what you are, and that means you might be able to become something else." "I don't deserve." "This isn't about deserve." I cut him off. "This is about choice. You chose to betray me. You chose greed over love. Now you get to choose what comes next: prison, therapy, redemption, or just being the kind of man who tries to be better even though he probably won't succeed." The ambulance pulled up to County General's emergency entrance. "I can't make that choice for you anymore, Daniel. I spent 40 years trying to save you from yourself, and all I did was make you weaker. So here it is, baby, the only gift I have left to give you." I stood up as the EMT opened the doors. "You're on your own." I found my mother in the ICU 3 hours later. They'd stabilized her barely. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, a concussion that would have killed someone half her age. The cancer was eating her from the inside, but apparently spite and stubbornness were keeping her alive. "Runs in the family," the doctor said when I asked how she was still breathing. She was asleep when I walked in, tubes and wires and machines beeping a rhythm that said alive, alive, still alive. I sat in the chair beside her bed and finally let myself cry. Not pretty tears, not cinematic, just ugly, choking sobs that came from somewhere so deep I didn't know I could hurt that much. For the mother I'd lost at 12. For the 30 years I'd spent hating her. For the son I'd just let go. For the woman I used to be, the one who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. For the woman I was becoming, the one who'd walked into fire and come out holding matches. "Ellie Bird?" My mother's voice, weak and raspy, pulled me back. She was awake, smiling, looking at me like I was 6 years old again and she was reading me bedtime stories. "You're supposed to be resting," I managed through tears. "I'll rest when I'm dead." She coughed, winced. "Which, let's be honest, is probably next Tuesday. But we've got time." "Mama. Did it work? Did Sarah get him?" "Yeah, federal custody, RICO charges, conspiracy, kidnapping, about 40 other things. Vincent Zhao is done." My mother's smile widened. "Good. That bastard had it coming for 40 years. We sat in silence for a moment. Machines beeping, hospital sounds filtering through the door. "I gave away the money," I said finally. "All 20 million. Told Sarah to use it for the case, for the victims." My mother laughed, sharp and painful and genuine. "Of course you did. I spent 30 years building a fortune to give you freedom, and you gave it away. I don't want blood money. Money doesn't have blood, baby. It's just paper. It's what you do with it that matters." She reached for my hand with trembling fingers. "But I'm proud of you anyway, for choosing what felt right instead of what felt safe. You manipulated me." The words came out soft but firm. "You set everything up, Daniel's betrayal, Vincent's move. You turned my life into a chess game and didn't ask permission. I know. You let me believe you abandoned me for 30 years. I know. You're dying and you didn't tell me until it was almost too late. I know." My mother squeezed my hand. "I'm a terrible mother, Ellie. I always have been. I left when you needed me most. I controlled your life from a distance. I used your pain as a weapon to force you into becoming strong." Tears were running down her cheeks now. "But I loved you. God, I loved you so much it broke me. And I knew that if I stayed, if I was weak, if I let Vincent own me the way he wanted to, he'd eventually own you too. So I ran. And I hid. And I planned. And I turned myself into a ghost so you could be real. You could have just asked for help," I whispered. "When you got sick, when Vincent found you, you could have called me. Would you have answered?" The question hung between us like a blade. "I don't know," I admitted. "Exactly." My mother smiled sadly. "So I did what I do best. I lied and manipulated and forced your hand, because I'm not good at asking for help, baby. I'm only good at burning bridges and building escape routes." She pulled me closer. "But you're better than me. Stronger. You walked into that bank knowing it might be a trap. You negotiated with Vincent knowing he might kill you. You gave away a fortune because it was the right thing to do. You're everything I tried to be and failed." "I'm terrified," I confessed. "I don't know what happens next. I don't know who I am without Daniel to take care of or you to hate. I'm 58 years old with no job, no house, no plan. I'm starting over from nothing." "No," my mother corrected gently. "You're starting over from yourself. That's not nothing. That's everything." She coughed again, harder this time. A nurse appeared in the doorway, gave me a warning look that said 5 more minutes. "Listen to me," my mother said urgently. "I've got maybe 3 months left if I'm lucky. Maybe 3 weeks if I'm not. But you've got decades, and I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Don't spend them being me. Don't run. Don't hide. Don't sacrifice yourself for people who don't deserve it." Her grip tightened. "Live loud, live messy, love people who love you back. Make mistakes, make art, Make noise. Be selfish sometimes. Be impossible. Be free. I don't know how. Neither did I, my mother admitted. But you're smarter than I was. You'll figure it out. The nurse was coming closer now, checking monitors, making it clear visiting hours were over. One more thing, my mother whispered. The coat, the mink coat from the hotel room. It's yours now. I know you probably want to burn it, but don't. It's got pockets. And those pockets have been collecting things for 30 years. What things? She smiled mysteriously. Treasures, tools, one last gift. Check when you get home. Mama, I don't have a home. Then make one. She released my hand. Go, start over, be impossible. And Ellie? Yeah? Thank you for finishing what I started. Thank you for being brave enough to win. Sarah found me in the hospital cafeteria at midnight, drinking burnt coffee and staring at nothing. Your statement can wait until tomorrow, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. But we need to talk about witness protection. I don't want it. Eleanor, Vincent's organization has tentacles everywhere. Even with him in custody, there are people loyal to him who might... Let them come. I met her eyes. I'm done hiding. I'm done running. If someone wants to find me, they'll find me. At least I'll see them coming. Sarah studied me for a long moment. You really are Aunt Linda's daughter. Is that a compliment or a warning? Both. She pulled out an envelope. This is from her. She made me promise to give it to you after everything was over. Said you'd need it more than she does now. Inside the envelope, a key. Not a safety deposit box key this time, just a regular house key with an address written on the attached tag. What is this? Aunt Linda bought a house 6 months ago. Small place up in Portland. Paid cash. Put it in your name. Sarah smiled. Apparently she planned for every possible outcome, including the one where you gave away all the money and ended up with nothing. She planned for me to be broke? She planned for you to be free, Sarah corrected. The house is yours. No mortgage, no strings. Just a place to start over. I stared at the key. The address. Portland. A city I'd never lived in. A house I'd never seen. A life that was completely, terrifyingly mine. There's also this. Sarah pushed a business card across the table. FBI Victim Assistance Fund. Not a lot, maybe $30,000 to help you relocate, get settled. It's not blood money, it's government money. Help that you've earned by taking down one of the most dangerous criminals on the West Coast. $30,000. A house. A chance. My mother's final gift, but this time given with permission, with choice, with love that looked like freedom instead of chains. When do I leave? I asked. Whenever you want. Your testimony isn't needed for another few weeks while we process everything. You could go tonight if you wanted. I looked around the hospital cafeteria, harsh fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, the smell of industrial cleaning products and desperation. I thought about Daniel, somewhere in this building, giving his own statement, facing his own consequences. I thought about my mother upstairs, dying and victorious, finally at peace. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who would have stayed, would have tried to fix everything, would have sacrificed herself one more time. And I thought about the woman I was becoming, the one who knew when to fight and when to walk away. I'll leave in the morning, I said, but first I need to do one more thing. I found Daniel in a hospital room on the 4th floor, handcuffed to the bed, a police officer standing guard outside. The officer recognized me from earlier, let me through with a nod. Daniel was awake, staring at the ceiling, looking exactly like what he was, a man who'd lost everything, including himself. Mom, he said when he saw me. Hope and shame and fear all tangled in that one word. I'm leaving, I told him. Tomorrow. Moving to Portland. Starting over. Can I come? When this is over? When I've served my time? I'd known he would ask. Had been preparing the answer since I walked out of the ambulance. No. Daniel's face crumbled. You need to build a life that isn't about me, I continued, my voice steady despite the pain. About earning my forgiveness or proving you've changed or making up for what you did? You need to figure out who Daniel is when he's not someone's son. When he's not chasing money or power or shortcuts. Just you. I don't know who that is. Then figure it out. I set something on his bedside table, the photo from my purse, his college graduation, my arm around his shoulders, both of us smiling like the world was full of possibilities. This is the last thing I'm giving you, I said. A reminder of who you used to be before Vincent. Before greed. Before you chose the easy way over the right way. Maybe you can find that person again. Maybe you can't. But that's your journey now, baby. Not mine. I love you, Mom. The words used to work like magic, used to make me forgive anything, sacrifice everything. Now they just sounded hollow. I know, I said, but love isn't enough. It never was. I walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle. Goodbye, Daniel. Will I ever see you again? I didn't turn around. Couldn't. If I looked at his face, I might change my mind, might fall back into the pattern of giving and giving until there was nothing left. I don't know, I said honestly. Ask me in 5 years. When you've done the work, when you've become someone I might actually want to know. Then I walked out, and I didn't look back. 6 months later, I'm sitting on a porch in Portland, drinking coffee and watching rain stream down from gray skies that somehow feel like home. I'm Eleanor Whitmore, 58 years old. No job, no family nearby, no idea what I'm doing with my life. And I've never been happier. The house my mother bought me is small, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that barely fits one person, a garden that's mostly weeds. But it's mine. The first thing I've ever owned that wasn't tied to someone else's dreams or debts or demands. I painted the walls yellow, bought second-hand furniture, planted tomatoes that probably won't survive my terrible gardening skills. I'm learning to cook for one. Learning to sleep through the night without checking my phone for emergencies. Learning that silence isn't scary, it's just peaceful. My neighbor, Patricia, 72, widowed, with opinions about everything, brings me casseroles I don't need and advice I don't ask for. She's pushy and nosy and completely wonderful. Last week she dragged me to a book club. Next week she's forcing me to volunteer at the community center. You're too young to just sit around waiting to die, she told me. Start living, for God's sake. So I'm trying. My mother died 3 months ago. Peacefully, the hospice nurse said. In her sleep. No pain at the end. I was holding her hand when it happened, talking to her even though she couldn't answer anymore, telling her about Portland, about the house, about the tomatoes that were definitely going to die. You did good, Mama, I whispered. You finished what you started. You won. She smiled, just a little upturn of her lips, and then she was gone. We buried her under a fake name in a cemetery outside Seattle. Just me and Sarah and a handful of FBI agents who'd worked the case. No, Daniel. I didn't tell him. Didn't think she'd want him there. The headstone reads, Linda Morrison, beloved aunt. She ran so others could stand still. Sarah cried. I didn't. I'd already done my crying in that hospital room 6 months ago. Instead, I felt grateful. Not for the abandonment, not for the manipulation, but for the fact that my mother spent 30 years preparing me for a moment I didn't know was coming. She gave me tools I didn't know I needed. She made me strong by making me survive her absence. Was it the right way to love someone? Probably not. But it was her way. And in the end, it worked. The mink coat hangs in my closet now. I finally checked the pockets like my mother told me to, found treasures she'd been collecting for 30 years. A photo of me on my wedding day. She'd been there, 3 rows back, wearing a hat and sunglasses, watching me marry a man who'd eventually leave me. She knew even then, probably. Knew and couldn't warn me because she was already a ghost. A ticket stub from Daniel's high school graduation. She'd watched him too. Watched both of us from the shadows, protecting us from a distance. A letter addressed to me but never sent. Dozens of them, actually. All the things she wanted to say over 3 decades but couldn't. I miss you. I'm sorry. You're beautiful. I'm proud. I love you. Forgive me. And at the bottom of the deepest pocket, wrapped in tissue paper, a bracelet, simple silver chain with a single charm, a small bird in flight, Ellie bird. I wear it every day now. A reminder that I come from a woman who knew how to fly, even if she had to do it alone. Vincent Zhao went to trial 4 months ago. The evidence my mother collected 40 years of crimes, all meticulously documented, was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. 3 consecutive life sentences. No possibility of parole. He's 73 years old. He'll die in prison. I didn't attend the trial. Didn't need to. Sarah sent me updates, but I stopped reading them after the verdict came through. He's not my problem anymore. Not my nightmare. Just a sick old man who'll spend his remaining years exactly where he belongs. Turns out monsters don't look so scary once you stop giving them power. Daniel writes letters. Once a week, like clockwork. From the federal prison in California, where he's serving 5 years for conspiracy and fraud. I don't open them. They sit in a drawer in my kitchen, stacked neatly, organized by date. 32 letters so far. Maybe by the time he gets out, there'll be 100. Maybe someday I'll read them. Maybe I'll answer. Maybe we'll rebuild something that looks like a relationship, or maybe we won't. But that's a decision for future Eleanor, the one who's had time to heal, time to figure out who she is when she's not someone's mother, or someone's daughter, or someone's victim. Right now, I'm just learning to be myself. Last week, I got a job. Nothing fancy, bookkeeper for a small nonprofit that helps domestic violence survivors. The director, Maria, hired me on the spot when she heard about my experience with financial systems. She doesn't know about Vincent or the FBI case or my mother's 30-year con. She just knows I'm good with numbers and I show up on time and I understand what it means to rebuild your life from nothing. The pay is terrible. The work is hard. I love it. Yesterday, a woman came in, maybe 30, with a black eye and 2 kids clinging to her legs. She needed help accessing an account her husband had frozen, needed money to run, needed someone to tell her she wasn't crazy for leaving. I sat with her for 3 hours, walked her through every step, got her the money, gave her the number for a safe house. When she left, she hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for helping me escape." And I thought, This is what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. Not running, not hiding, not sacrificing myself, just helping other women find their own keys, their own freedom, their own impossible choices. Sarah visits once a month. She brings Thai food and FBI gossip and updates on the case. Vincent's organization has collapsed, 43 arrests, 17 convictions so far, with more coming. Brittany's sister Maya got out of that club. She's in college now, studying social work, wants to help girls like her. The ripple effect of my mother's 30-year plan keeps spreading, touching lives she'll never know about, saving people she'll never meet. Aunt Linda would be proud, Sarah tells me every visit. I know, I say, and I mean it. Tonight, I'm sitting on this porch with my coffee and my mother's bracelet and a blank journal Patricia gave me. Write your story, she commanded. You've lived enough for 3 lifetimes, time to make sense of it. So I'm trying. Not the whole story that would take years, just the important parts. My name is Eleanor Grace Whitmore. I am 58 years old. My mother left me when I was 12, and I spent 30 years hating her for it. My son betrayed me when I was 58, and I spent 6 months learning to let him go. I was owned by other people's needs for most of my life. I gave everything and got nothing. I sacrificed myself over and over until there was nothing left to sacrifice. And then I stopped. I walked into a fire and came out holding matches. I flipped the board. I chose myself. My mother taught me that love isn't about staying. It's about doing whatever it takes to make sure the people you love survive, even if survival means letting them go, even if love looks like absence. She ran so I could stand still. She left so I could stay. She became a ghost so I could be real. Was she a good mother? No, not by any traditional definition. But she was my mother, and she loved me the only way she knew how, fiercely, impossibly, from a distance that felt like abandonment but was actually protection. I understand that now. I forgive her. Finally. Completely. And maybe, someday, I'll forgive Daniel too. Or maybe I won't. That's the gift my mother gave me: permission to choose, permission to say no, permission to be selfish sometimes. I spent 58 years being what other people needed. Now I'm learning to be what I need. And what I need is this: a small house in Portland, a job that matters, a neighbor who won't leave me alone, coffee on rainy mornings, tomatoes that probably won't survive, silence that feels like peace instead of punishment. I need to be free, finally, completely, terrifyingly free. My mother ran for 30 years. I'm done running. I'm planting roots. I'm building a life. I'm becoming someone I might actually like. I'm Eleanor Whitmore, 58 years old, broke, alone, starting over. And I've never been more alive. I close the journal, set it aside, and watch the rain. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Miss Whitmore? This is Marcus from Harbor Trust Bank. I never thanked you for giving me the chance to walk away. I testified against Vincent's organization yesterday. They're offering me witness protection. I'm taking it. Starting over, like you said. Thank you for showing me it was possible. I smile and text back. Good luck. Be impossible. Another buzz. This time from Sarah. Final count: 52 arrests. Vincent's entire operation dismantled. Asset forfeiture totaling $847 million being redistributed to victims. Aunt Linda's evidence was the gift that keeps giving. She'd be laughing her ass off right now. I look up at the gray Portland sky and whisper, "Thanks, Mama, for everything, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts." The rain keeps falling. My coffee gets cold. Patricia appears on her own porch with a wave and a shout about tomorrow's community center event that I absolutely have to attend. Life keeps happening, messy and ordinary and absolutely extraordinary. I'm 58 years old, and I'm just getting started. 3 years later, I'm 61 now. Gray hair I stopped dyeing, wrinkles I stopped hiding, a body that survived more than it should have. The community center job turned into something bigger. I run a nonprofit now. Second Chances, we call it. Financial counseling and support for women leaving abusive situations. We've helped 300 women in 3 years. Helped them access hidden accounts, file for bankruptcies, start over with nothing and make it something. Patricia is on my board of directors. She's relentless, impossible, perfect. Sarah visits less often now. She made assistant director, leads the organized crime division. But we talk every week. Family, real family, the kind you choose. My tomatoes survived after all. Turns out I'm better at growing things than I thought. The letter comes on a Tuesday. California Department of Corrections return address. Daniel's handwriting. But this one is different, marked final letter across the top. I've been opening them for 6 months now. Reading his journey: therapy, guilt, slow, painful growth. We're not reconciled, might never be. But I'm not carrying his weight anymore, and that's enough. I open this one with my coffee, on my porch, in my life. Mom, I'm being released next month. 3 years for good behavior. I've done the work you told me to do: therapy, amends, figuring out who I am when I'm not someone's son. I'm not asking to come to Portland. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you, I'm going to Phoenix. Found a job in construction. Found a sponsor in AA. Found a therapist who doesn't let me make excuses. I'm building a life that isn't about you or Grandma or Vincent or proving anything to anyone. Just me. Just Daniel, whoever that is. Thank you for walking away. For forcing me to stand on my own. For loving me enough to let me fall. I get it now. What Grandma did. What you did. Love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. Maybe in a few years, if I'm still sober, still working, still growing, maybe I can call you. Maybe we can have coffee. Maybe we can be 2 people who used to know each other and are curious if they still do. But only if you want that. Only if it doesn't cost you the peace you've built. I love you, Mom. But more importantly, I finally respect you. Daniel. I read it twice. 3 times. Then I do something I haven't done in 3 years. I write back. Daniel, Phoenix sounds good. Construction sounds honest. Keep doing the work. Call me in 2 years, not before. If you're still sober, still growing, still becoming someone I might want to know, we'll have that coffee. But here's the deal. I'm not your mother anymore. Not the way I used to be. I'm not your safety net, or your savior, or your second chance. I'm just Eleanor, a woman who's learning to live for herself. If you can respect that, we might be able to build something new, something honest, something that doesn't require me to sacrifice myself. If you can't, that's okay too. I'll still wish you well. I'll still hope you succeed, but from a distance. Always from a distance. Be impossible. Be free. Be yourself. Eleanor. I seal the letter, mail it, and then I let it go. That night, I dream about my mother. We're standing on a beach somewhere, gray sky, cold water, wind whipping our hair into tangles. She looks young, healthy, the way she did before cancer and Vincent and 30 years of running. You did good, Ellie Bird, she says. I'm still figuring it out, I tell her. Nobody ever figures it out. You just make choices and hope they're the right ones. She smiles. But you're choosing now. That's all I wanted. That's all I ever wanted. Was it worth it? I ask. 30 years of running, dying alone, all that pain? My mother looks out at the ocean, vast, endless, full of possibilities. You're free, she says simply. So yeah, it was worth it. Then she walks into the water, and I watch her go without crying, without chasing, without trying to save her. I just let her go. And I wake up in my small house in Portland, with sun breaking through clouds for the first time in days, and I feel light. Like I've been carrying something heavy for so long I forgot it was there, and someone finally lifted it off my shoulders. I am Eleanor Grace Whitmore, 61 years old. Daughter of Linda Chen, con artist, survivor, ghost. Mother of Daniel Whitmore, work in progress maybe. Founder of Second Chances. Neighbor to Patricia, cousin to Sarah. I am bookkeeper and gardener and coffee drinker and woman who finally learned to choose herself. I am not my mother's abandoned child anymore. Not my son's endless sacrifice. Not anyone's victim or savior or second chance. I am just me. Messy, impossible, free. And that, finally, is enough. Epilogue. 5 years after that morning, a young woman walks into my office at Second Chances. She's maybe 25, bruised, scared, carrying nothing but a backpack and a 3-year-old daughter clinging to her leg. I need help leaving, she whispers. My husband, he controls everything. The money, the accounts, the car. I have nothing. But I can't stay. I can't let my daughter grow up watching him. Her voice breaks. I come around the desk, kneel down to her daughter's level. What's your name, sweetheart? Ellie, the little girl says. My heart stops, starts again, keeps beating. I look up at this young mother who's choosing impossible courage over comfortable captivity, who's choosing her daughter's freedom over her own safety. Ellie's a good name, I say. It means light. Did you know that? The mother shakes her head, tears streaming. Well, Ellie. I stand up, take the mother's hand. Let's get you both into the light. Let's get you free. Because that's what I do now. I help desperate women find their keys. I help them flip the board. I help them understand that love sometimes looks like leaving, that strength sometimes looks like running, that survival sometimes requires becoming someone new. I help them escape, just like my mother helped me. And maybe, if I do this long enough, help enough women, save enough daughters, maybe that's what redemption looks like. Not forgiveness, not forgetting, just paying it forward. One impossible choice at a time. I am Eleanor Grace Whitmore, the daughter of Linda Chen. And this is how we save each other. By running, by staying, by choosing, by surviving, by being impossible, by being free.